economically, but we're losing something that's so special and valuable. You know, I'm not saying that every woman has to go back home and be barefoot and pregnant. You know, we need women to be out there. But at the same time, because no one's home, the children are being raised and manipulated by the voices of the television sets. There's no one there caring for them. They're just being completely programmed by the images of, you know, the mass media merchandising machine, I call it.
So we've fallen from a spiritual domain in which people were caring and concerned about each other to a material in which people only care about material.
This is a culture that glorifies the ego.
The ego.
The ego. And what does the ego is? Me, me, me. Mine, mine. I want this. And it's you know, we're being told that by, you know, Madison Avenue, the pharmaceutical company, all of that, we can't even live without their indispensable products. Our children are being put on pharmaceuticals. Toddlers being given, you know, mind-altering drugs. They're taught, what are they going to be taught? That their whole life will be spent on drugs? That that's the way to solve a problem? Where are our mothers? Where are our fathers? Where are the caretakers and nurturers? Where are our elders? They're being put on drugs off in some home when they should be the one, after lifetimes of wisdom and experience, they should be teaching the kids. They should be with them. And, you know, we're all rushing towards this, you know, total manifestation of ego. We're taught in the West to actually glorify the ego.
Okay. Now, if we were to go in the other direction.
Yes.
You know, could you briefly explain, you know, where that is? Or what we'd have to get back to or move forward to or cyclically reconnect with?
You know, the end of the dark age that we're in, the Kali Yuga, out of that darkness, out of that learning experience, because it all is a learning experience from the beginning to the end. We have to experience it all. We're embodied in flesh. Comes the greatest light. And in all the texts tell you that this golden age, once it cycles around like birth and death. And what happens is that there are many of, I'll use an analogy of what's going on today. We know there are many of us that are very aware of how much we are being lied to all over the world by the leaders, how the lie has become more predominant than the truth. But we're beginning to wake up from the cultural trance and see. Now, the only way to really solve the problem is within oneself, and is to come back to truth and integrity and virtue in oneself, to look at these demons that are in our minds, or the ones that are surrounding us and being put on us by these forces, and to dispel them. How? Through love. There's only love in the end. And there's compassion, not the kind of compassion that's being, you know, told to us, this compassionate conservatism, whatever it is.
Passionate.
Yeah, compassion. It is pure. Compassion springs out of a selflessness, out of a... You look at someone else and you see that each one of us is a manifestation of the divine, and that deep in there, even George Bush has a spark of the divine in him that has not been nurtured. We have lost that. And so what we have to do is to begin with looking into ourselves first and purifying. All the spiritual teachers will tell you this. And really, it's like looking in the mirror. And instead of seeing through the eyes of your parents who have told you you're an ugly kid so you feel ugly the rest of your life, or a teacher who told you that, you know, you couldn't speak well so you feel that, let all that go. Let all that arise and really go deep and find some good friends and open yourself up and really talk about what's in your heart and free that, free the darkness. And once you can do that in yourself, and it's not an easy task. You know, we want the easy way. We're trained from childhood in this culture. That's why we're ready to take a pill, or we want a teacher, a guru to come hit us on the head and instantly we want enlightenment. But enlightenment, it's not easy work. it's a deep spiritual path, and it's a deep, you have to really go in. And once you begin to do that, then you can see that everyone is just, they're sad and lonely beings. We're surrounded by an atmosphere of pollution, you know, everything is based on, since everything's based on making, on greed pretty much, on making money. So they're not caring about really honestly taking care of us. How much money is spent on preventative medicine? It's just, let's fix it, and it'll cost you this much. But anyway, what we should do, go out in nature, appreciate what we have, learn to look at each other, care for each other, hold each other, look into other people's eyes. You know, look into the eyes of your parents and your children and see. We're all longing. The mother, the feminine, has been gone from this planet to a great extent for a very long time. A friend who's a healer told me that these days people come to her and all they want is for her to hold them and rock them and let them cry, because we're so lost, we're so disconnected and alienated. And so it's time to come back together and realize who we are. We are extraordinary spiritual beings in material bodies, and begin to, you know, to lift the veil of all of this modern culture and see the amazing beings that we truly are.
So what you're suggesting is that culturally we're spiritually corrupt. And in order to cure this spiritual corruption, we need to look individually within each other, heal our own spirituality, and then what? Reconnect or connect with community in a new way.
Without other people's voices. How many, I ask people, you know, how many of your thoughts are your own? Really your own?
How many are your own thoughts?
Yeah. How many are your own? You know, what is yours? Go deep. Look. Where were these influences? Watch a TV program. What are they saying to you? What are they trying to do? You know?
Now, you're not suggesting, for instance, that people just look within themselves and close out everything. What you're
not
saying
at all. No,
look
because
within and then stay progressive.
Stay in your heart.
In the heart.
Go right into the heart. In many of the traditions, actually the Tibetan tradition and the ancient Egyptian tradition, the mind resides in the heart. The heart is the doorway. You know, so instead of looking, you know, from a mental, judgmental, threatened position, look, open your eyes. You know, find that love within yourself. Love only grows. Light grows, you know. And like, look at your, you know, your family, your mother, and see how they're longing. They're longing for someone to listen to them. A lot of it has to do with listening. And another key is really to tell the truth.
Which brings us to storytelling. Yeah. And we've been getting some stories from the current administration, you know, the weapons of mass destruction, which now they'll freely admit, and in fact they're actually boasting that it never existed in the first place, and they're really kind of smug with the fact that they fooled us, and they're pretty happy about it. So let's talk about the other storytelling, which you know, you have talked about in your book in terms of using dance and symbolism as it relates to storytelling. And
well, for century after century, the way that the moral and social and political, if you call it that, teachings were transmitted was through the medium of sacred theater. And so people were trained, community members were trained, you know, even way back to, in quotes, hunter-gatherer times. They would go out and they'd reenact the story of the hunt, and everyone would be involved in it, and they would have all these parts. It developed, you know, in the time of the temples into an amazing transmission of knowledge. Priestesses and priests were trained to hold these teachings. And since they were so connected with the luminous realms, the realms of divinity, they would actually embody to show a different way of being. Because from this perspective, we are all divinity, we were divinity, we came from divinity, and it was to keep us connected with this heritage. And so the ways of the feminine, the ways of gesture,